big debate over your right to privacy. A 9-member bench appointed by the Supreme Court will now examine if the Constitution of India guarantees your basic right to privacy. And this comes after the centre quoted an 8-judge bench ruling from 1954 and a 6-judge bench ruling from 1962 which had ruled that the right to privacy is not a fundamental right.
When the Supreme Court goes ahead and examines and settles this question that has suddenly arisen on the horizon, if right to privacy is an absolute right, it's an absolute fundamental right which is guaranteed under the Constitution, the government clearly feels that it is not.
The discussion, of course, was spurred by the petitions filed in the Supreme Court that question linking the Aadhaar with the PAN card. The Government of India, represented by the Attorney General, had argued that the right to privacy is not a fundamental right. In fact, it falls under common law, thus justifying its proposal of blanket Aadhaar coverage. The Supreme Court, however, has chosen to keep its decision on hold till 9 judges make a decision. What is at stake is your privacy. So on the Urban Debate tonight, we ask, should the right to privacy be a fundamental right? We're now report.
Well, here's the thing we have to consider this evening. The Attorney General Mukul Rohtagi in court said that there is no fundamental right to privacy in India. That as Indians, we do not have a fundamental right to privacy. K.K. Venugopal, who is representing the Pro-UID Centre for Civil Society, said that most beneficiaries or most Indians would choose or would not mind to waive off their rights to privacy in exchange for receiving welfare. The fundamental question to ask here is twofold. One is, do we have a fundamental right to privacy? And we are asking this question now in 2017. And the second thing is, if we do have a right to privacy, is it a right that we can choose to waive off and say, I don't want that right? Because technically, by definition, you cannot waive off or you cannot choose to give up your fundamental rights. That's why they're fundamental rights. That's the question we're asking this evening. Also, the focus of why these questions are important. The Aadhaar project and the government's daring need to link the Aadhaar to all of our other lives, all of our other choices. So right now as we stand, it is linked to your IT tax returns, it's linked to your phone numbers, it will soon be linked to your board exams, to your children's admissions, it will be linked also perhaps in one particular recommendation that came forward from the Law Commission, perhaps will also be linked to your marriage certificates and thereby to your religious information. This is why there is a conversation that's going to begin tomorrow in the Supreme Court, where a 9-judge bench will decide whether or not we have the right to privacy. Joining us on the show this evening, Gopal Krishna Agarwal, National Spokesperson of the BJP, Sanjay Jha of the Congress Party, Kailash Vasdev, Senior Lawyer of the Supreme Court, Ramakanth Gaur, also Senior Lawyer of the Supreme Court, Swapnil Kothari, Managing Partner at S. Kothari and Company, Shailesh Gandhi, former Central Information Commissioner, bringing in the citizen's voice. I welcome all of you to this conversation. I'm going to start with Shailesh Gandhi, representing the citizen here. Shailesh Gandhi, when I heard the quote that the Attorney General said Indians don't have a fundamental right to privacy, it made me nervous. Does it make you nervous?
I think Article 21 guarantees life and liberty. And life means life with dignity. All human beings must have a life with dignity. But it's also important to understand, because privacy has now come to mean a wide variety of things. Privacy is to do with the body, etc. And therefore, biometrics are certainly part of privacy. But everything is not privacy. Today, various people have interpreted privacy as meaning their own income tax returns, their own education qualifications, certificates given of caste, certificates given of education. All this is not privacy. If, therefore, the Supreme Court does rule that privacy is to do with the body, what one does at home, those are the limited things which various people have said before, then I think, yes, it is definitely part of privacy, and privacy is the right to live with dignity. Life without dignity is no life at all. Human beings must have a life with dignity.
Well, let me bring in Kailash Vasdev. Kailash Vasdev, if we consider, and Shailesh Gandhi very rightfully pointed out Article 21, but let's combine Article 14, 19 and 21, which is the right to equality, fundamental freedoms and personal liberty. Doesn't that, in a sort of overlapping fashion, give us the right to privacy? Don't you believe that fundamentally as individuals we do have a right to privacy? Aadhaar or no Aadhaar?
Your right to privacy has been guaranteed over time. Let's go into a little bit of history on this. In England, in 1603, 1763, as far back as that, a man's home and his hearth was his private. Legend in Parliament was even the king couldn't enter it, even if the house was leaking. The developments came in the American Constitution, where they said that the state cannot enter your house. We have adapted and adopted the principles of fundamental rights from a catena of systems which prevailed all over the world for the purposes of protecting our citizens. 19(1)A rights, Article 21 rights are enshrined in our Constitution, which have been read to mean and include the right to privacy. Whether you look at the 54 judgment, the 56 judgment, the 1995 judgment, 1997 judgment, 2005 judgments of the Supreme Court, everyone has maintained that the right to privacy is an absolute right. Being an absolute right, the question is to what extent can it be trammeled? By an executive action, by a judicial order, by a legislation. Now, these have all been matters of consideration before the court. But let us look at it in the absolute abstract. The right to privacy is an absolute right available to a citizen of our country and should not be allowed to be trammeled under any circumstances. Maybe a restriction under 19(2) in an absolute national emergency or the like, or in the interest of the state. But save and except for a very limited sphere, 19(1) rights, 21 rights are absolute. To tamper with them would be incorrect. The linking of Aadhaar is a matter which is procedural under a particular act. The act prescribes for a system in which certain information is to be made available, but it does not say that all your private information should be linked to Aadhaar. Therefore, there is an infringement of the fundamental rights as we understand it, but that is now becoming a matter of debate which has been put before 9 judges of the court.
Well, Ramakanth Gaur, and this is fundamentally where the question pops up at. The Aadhaar project, for what it started off to be and what it is today, and whether or not it infringes, if two gentlemen on our panel so far, and two very accomplished gentlemen, Shailesh Gandhi and Kailash Vasdev, agree that that privacy is a fundamental right. Do you believe that the Aadhaar project infringes on that fundamental right? Ramakanth Gaur? Ramakanth Gaur, can you hear me? All right. All right, I'm going to take that same question to Swapnil Kothari. Swapnil?
Yes. Well, it definitely does. And, just to go back, there is a fundamental right to privacy enshrined under our Constitution. The 54 judgment and the 62 judgment of Khadak Singh, MP Sharma and Khadak Singh respectively, did not hold that the right to privacy was a fundamental right, but those were the 50s and the 60s. There has been a long journey of several miles across by the Supreme Court in several judgments enunciated by it through Gobind versus State of Uttar Pradesh, and then even in the Auto Shankar's case, that the right to privacy is a part of Article 21. And once it is enshrined under Article 21, which is the right to life, which adumbrates the right to privacy and the right to dignity itself, that clearly sends the message that the right to privacy is a fundamental right. Now, Aadhaar is the project of the government. Post Maneka Gandhi versus Union of India, which was one of the most essential and a landmark judgment, which talked about personal liberty, and where Maneka's passport was impounded. And the court prescribed that if there was any violation of Article 21, it had to meet 3 tests. The first was that it had to be a procedure. The procedure must withstand and pass constitutional muster of the fundamental rights of 14, 19(1)A and 21 itself. And the third was that it has to pass, again, the right to equality. So these were the 3 tests. Now, as far as the Aadhaar is concerned, it does not pass all these 3 tests for the simple reason that biometrics and my fingerprints are a part of my body. Now, whether I wish to go ahead with the Aadhaar Act itself does not make Aadhaar or procurement of the Aadhaar compulsory. in the first place. So anything that ensues thereafter is nothing but an infringement and a complete trampling of the fundamental right of privacy.
Right. Do we have Ramakanth Gaur with us? Do we have that connection back again? All right, we're going to try and get that back as well. But I just want, for the benefit of our audience, I want to understand when the Attorney General says in the Supreme Court, representing the central government of India, that there is no fundamental right to privacy. What does that mean? I'm going to take this back to Kailash Vasdev for the benefit of our audience in the most layman terms that you can explain it to us in. What does it mean to not have privacy as a fundamental right?
You see, this argument emanates essentially by an amendment to the Constitution where your fundamental right to property was taken away. 19(1)(f), Article 19(1)(f) gave you a right to property that was annulled by Parliament. It was done in circumstances which were different and it has never been put back. Therefore, the reading today is that if you can take away a fundamental right and a vital right as that of property, putting it in Article 300A, there is no reason why the citizen should have a right which is not specifically described in the Constitution. You may have a right of freedom and expression, etc., etc., but privacy is not described any place. It is a system developed by the courts. So the government's argument is that, look, 8 judges have taken the view in the 1950s and 60s. So therefore, the view of the 2000s cannot supersede the judgments of the earlier days. The reference made on the Aadhaar card to the larger bench is based on this premise that there are judgments of the court. Now, what is the court supposed to do? Follow 6 judges, 8 judges of the 50s, or the later views of 95, 97, 2005 and onwards? In simple language, the question which is being posed by the government is, do you have a right to privacy? I will take a minute on this one. The right to privacy is a right which has been recognized in the United Nations charters, in international law, in the European Commission, and in all courts in the developed nations. In America, it's a First and a Fourth Amendment right. In England, by convention, even the king cannot enter your house. So therefore, they recognize the fact that your place, your person is an absolute right. Our constitution has been interpreted in the same manner. In the later judgments in Otto Shankar, where a policeman said you cannot publish a biography, in the phone tapping case, in Maneka Gandhi's case, subsequently in the other cases which have also come before the court. It's a very controversial situation because the court has got judgments 6 and 8 by precedent. It is supposed to follow them, but the Constitution is a living document. It has to be interpreted by time. You cannot follow a prosaic idea and maintain it. Old judgments, even Gopalan, have been changed. So you see, the approach has to be more dynamic, more open, more frank, and giving the citizen a right to protect himself. There are provisions in the Penal Code 499, 500 to sue for defamation. Those rights are available to you, but the law is you cannot preclude my right under any circumstances excepting in absolute necessity. Therefore, the right to privacy.
Right. I want to bring in, I understand Ramakanth Gaur can now hear me. Ramakanth Gaur, the Attorney General, May 2017, made a statement in court where he said the right over one's body is not absolute, arguing for biometrics in Aadhaar. That sent shockwaves down a lot of us. He then went on to say the right to privacy is not fundamental. Again, from the point of view of the Aadhaar discussion specifically, if I don't have a fundamental right to privacy, what does this mean for my information under the Aadhaar Act?
See, it is a direct infringement of my right to privacy. My right to privacy is an uttermost right as a right to live. So it has been a constitutional right and it has been recognized as the fundamental right. Somehow there have been conflicting decisions of the Supreme Court. Now the Apex Court has referred this matter to the larger bench. So it will be for the larger bench to look into the matter. Matter is sub judice, so we should be a little slow in analyzing it too far. But one thing I wish to add quickly, that this collection of data is something which is really very important. from both point of views. You see, if you look at the government's point of view, they want to collect the data of the citizen for the sake of the recognition, for the sake of their individual rights, as well as for protection and detection at the time of when some offense is committed. So that data will be really of great importance, but at the same time, that data cannot be utilized against any person against his wishes. That has also been a subtle law. So there are various perspectives of law which would be considered by the larger bench. We should wait for the arguments.
Well, let me just point out here, and I'm going to bring in Gopal Agarwal representing the BJP. It's important for us, while Ramakanth Gaur quite rightly pointed out that a 9-judge bench of the Supreme Court will decide on whether or not privacy is a fundamental right. It's important for us as Indians to understand what that means. What does it mean to have privacy as a fundamental right, or to not have privacy as a fundamental right? But first, Gopal Krishna Agarwal. Gopal Krishna Agarwal, is this the government's stand that privacy is not a fundamental right, that we don't have an absolute right over our own bodies?
No, that's not the issue here. The debate which the government has, it's with regard to the linking of Aadhaar with the benefits that the government is delivering. Actually, you see, when you see in the case of Ujjwala, how the delivery mechanism in the government, where there is a large scale leakages, and where the subsidies and other benefits of the government are not reaching to the targeted people, when we have created a unique identity with regard to Aadhaar number, the government is trying to use it to plug the leakages that were happening in the delivery mechanism. Second, the government is trying to somewhat do away with where there is no proper targeting of the subsidies. That are the issue. They are trying to take the benefit out of the unique identity which has been created out of Aadhaar and linking it, some of the benefits to government benefits to that identity, so that there is no confusion and there is no leakages. That is the main purpose. With regard to that also, the government has said that we are not making it mandatory and compulsory, we are making it voluntary, so that we improve the efficiency in the delivery mechanism. That's the
Mr.
only
Agarwal, you are making it
purpose.
compulsory. If I cannot file my taxes at the end of this month without having linked Aadhaar, then I have to have gotten an Aadhaar number. So you have made it compulsory one way or the other. I want to bring in Sanjay Jha. Sanjay Jha, respond to that. And let's be honest, the idea of the Aadhaar number or the Aadhaar database came from the UPA government.
Mr. Jha, before you come in, I just want to bring in a small comment.
With a singular difference way that the UPA government, which created the original... Please carry on, it's okay.
No, Sanjay Jha, make your point, and then I'll go back to Kailash Vasdev. Sanjay Jha, make your point. One second, I just want Sanjay Jha to come in. He hasn't spoken yet. Sanjay Jha, make your point to rebut the BJP representative, and then I'll go back to Kailash Vasdev.
Faith, there is a singular difference, an extraordinary, shall we say, segregation between the views of the UPA government that created the Aadhaar and the way it is being executed by Mr. Modi's government. Firstly, to begin with, it was never meant to be mandatory. It was only meant to be for those who are going to be likely beneficiaries of government welfare and certain subsidy schemes. What this government has done, incidentally, it is almost preposterous, but the BJP and all its leaders, including Mr. Narendra Modi, said that Aadhaar needs to be implemented with care, otherwise it is highly draconian. So this sudden U-turn is something that we should all be very concerned about. Now, some of your panelists have already spoken, and they are legal experts, because the truth is that when India's former Attorney General, Mr. Mukul Rohatgi, makes a statement in the Supreme Court that the right to privacy is a vague concept, then I think as citizens of India, not just as a political representative of my party, but as a citizen of this country, we need to be extremely apprehensive. Mr. Agarwal, the BJP spokesperson, is trying to just give a spin, but he really had no actually appropriate answer to your question. The reason behind that is very simple. that end of day, as somebody mentioned a little earlier, Faye, if you look at Article 14, you look at Article 19, look at Article 21, there is an interplay of one reality, which is that the right to privacy is an integral part of a right to life or a right to dignity of an individual. Now, it's true that in the earlier judgments, it was not told that it was a clear, explicitly as a guaranteed right. But subsequent Supreme Court judgments have clearly implied that it is definitely a right to privacy is a fundamental right. Why is this government chosen to selectively quote the fact that, right to privacy is not something that an individual should claim to be his fundamental right, is for this government to answer. But I think we need to recognize one thing, Faye, that end of day, we are living in an age of an Aadhaar ecosystem. And on your program, we have debated several times about the loss of mine and your online privacy, because there is no data protection laws, there is no data privacy. We are also talking about online privacy here. Now, the other day, a major telecom company of India had 120 million data theft with Aadhaar linkages established. How do you answer that? The Jharkhand government lost Aadhaar information and put it out in the marketplace. If your and mine biometric data is now available on online marketplace for sale to the highest bidder, I think as a country we need to be extremely concerned. I'm hopeful that end of day the Supreme Court larger bench will obviously recognize this reality, but I think we are free to debate it.
Right.
And
let me go back to Kailash Vasdev. Kailash Vasdev, you had a point to make about the finance bill. Go ahead.
Tomorrow we can discuss it today.
See, what I was saying at that point of time was, the Aadhaar is a particular function. It is not a fundamental right either of government or of us to go to the Aadhaar system. Your fundamental right is infringed when the Aadhaar information is made available for purposes not relevant. Or today, for example, you go to a telephone company for your mobile phone. They ask you for your Aadhaar card. You go to a bank, they ask you for your Aadhaar number. You go to any person for any purposes, the Aadhaar card is mandatory. Driving licenses are demanding for it. You see, the whole purpose is, if you want to have a data bank, then you say this is a data bank which will be publicly available for all purposes. You don't turn around and say that we are going to have this system, notwithstanding your fundamental right, for the purposes of improving government functioning. Efficiency in government, bringing about a coordination in your own systems, where you have failed basically in delivering goods, is not an answer by the way of Aadhaar or fundamental rights. Your answers are in different areas. Fundamental rights are fundamental to a human being. Do not infringe them. Respect them, because that is where the man lives. You have him on data, you have the data available in public domain, it is transferred, it is given for whatever reasons, mistake, error or whatever, but the man's rights are infringed. Everybody knows about his children, his bank accounts, his status, his income and everything. Where you are declaring them for public purposes, for example, parliamentarians, judges, public officers have to declare their assets. I don't have to, because my assets are what are available to the department. My assets are those which are publicly declared for the purposes of tax. It is not for the other purposes. You may have a good purpose in linking your Aadhaar system to everything else, but the question still arises, is it an infringement of your right? That is the bigger question, and that must be looked into in the wider perspective of a democracy where adult franchise, where the systems are open.
Yes, very well said. Very well said. Kailash Vasdev, senior lawyer with the Supreme Court. We have a couple of phone calls that have come in. Raghav is on the phone line from Bangalore. Raghav, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi Faye. Good evening. I was actually appalled when I heard that, right to privacy is not a fundamental right. I mean, that is not what I want to hear from my government or or the lawyers who are representing the government. Point number one. Point number two, we should not be forced to link everything to one particular instrument. Now, the reason why I'm saying this is, we do not have a proper security for digital data in place because we are getting digitized too quickly. And until the government comes up with a system where our data is secure, I don't think they should link everything to one card that has all my biometric details, because then there are 20 different details of mine which can be sold. And that is what's scaring me. I mean, just, someone can hack in and take all the details out. And that is invasion of my privacy.
Absolutely. So fundamentally, the thing that's making everyone nervous is the sanctity of the database or the security of the database. We constantly hear about hacking or from various databases. How do we know that this one is particularly safe? Narasimhan is on the phone line as well. Narasimhan, go ahead.
See, first of all, my point is the privacy to the fundamental rights is not absolute. What happened during emergency? The fundamental rights were thrown to the winds. When the national emergency or when the situation arises, the fundamental rights does not stand. Similarly, I am an ordinary person who doesn't have any black money or anything. I am transparent dealing. When such is the case, what is the problem in linking Aadhaar with various services? Only those who have something to cheat or hide or something are thinking of talking about privacy and other things. I have absolutely no problem. Why should you think of that privacy is being encroached upon? It is not. Even without doing this, the government department people are selling the information to the people, those who are paying the money. Where is that time? At the time the privacy comes or the fundamental right comes? Only we are talking about fundamental rights when something is seriously threatened for certain people. I am absolutely for linking this, and this should have been done long time back so that many of the wrong things or unwanted things would have been avoided.
That's an excellent question, Mr. Narasimhan. Thank you for calling in. I'm just going to take one more call and then we'll answer that question.
Can I come on 1 or 2 points?
Yes. I'm coming back to you straight after this. Lakshmi Kamesh is on the phone line from Vishakhapatnam. Lakshmi Kamesh, go ahead.
Yes, good evening to all. Actually, I also endorse what the previous caller has said.
Yes.
I also endorse what the previous caller has said. We are talking about right to privacy only when we are thinking that something is which we want to hide. Otherwise, I am an ex-banker. I am working with a chartered accountant firm now. I know how the people hide. A person is having more than 5-10 account in firms, and his turnover is more than crores of rupees, and he never pays any amount to the government. And whereas a salary person who is paying just 30,000, he is paying the tax. How we don't have the nationality? When it is a rule, you disclose everything. Why you worry?
Why you worry? That's a great point. Gopal, I'm going to come back to you, Gopal Krishna Agarwal, but first I want one of the lawyers to answer this question. Ramakanth Gaur, if you can hear me, during the emergency, this was the question that came in. During the emergency, fundamental rights are suspended. Doesn't that, how does that apply then to the case of privacy? Why are we arguing about it? If we have nothing to hide, then why do we need privacy?
See, we have nothing to hide, but that does not mean that we'll come out in the open and our data is available to everyone. Undoubtedly, I must quote an example. When in 2013, Arun Jaitley's phone call records were stolen, they were made available to somebody, some detective agency, and there was a criminal case was registered. That was a stage of phone call records. So if they were so concerned about their own phone call records in 2013, they need to ensure that our data is safe. We have no problem in sharing our data, but that data is safe, one. Two, that data will not be utilized against any person in any other manner which is not in terms of or which is not in accordance with law. So that aspect must be looked into before collecting any data. More particularly,
Gopal Krishna Agarwal, respond to that. Gopal Krishna Agarwal, respond to that.
There are 2-3 things we should understand. One thing is, once we are having an Aadhaar card, already our information, lot of information is there with the Aadhaar UIDI authority. Already those informations are with those authority. And the number that we are sharing is only the number, that Aadhaar number we are sharing with other banks and other income tax department and other issues are there. And what is the question is that when we talk of right to fundamental right, the Constitution has already defined some of the rights as the fundamental right. Balance, which are arising out of right to life under section clause 21 of the Constitution, is undefinable, and let us wait for the court to get into that section 21 and define whether right to privacy is a fundamental right or not. But what is there is, when you are sharing an Aadhaar number alone, you are not sharing your other private information with all other organizations. You are just sharing your Aadhaar number, and your basic data is only with the UDI authority. So therefore you are not, government is not sharing the whole information, your biometric impressions, your iris, other things are being kept with the government alone. And why this unique identity was created? Because
Gopal Krishna Agarwal, do you know that right now, if you want, one second, Gopal Krishna Agarwal, do you know right now, if you want to sell a cell phone connection, you have to go to the cell phone company, and they're fingerprinting you. They're not just taking the number, they're fingerprinting every individual. So to say that our fingerprints is not, this is not, I mean, what is the point at the end of the day if you're telling me that you're only taking the number? What is the point of the number? The number links to biometric data. The number links to an iris scan and to a fingerprint. The number by itself is completely useless. It is only when you have access to the biometric data that that number becomes valid. So I don't understand your argument saying that it's just the number that we're talking about.
That information, no, but those information about your iris imprints and your biometric impressions are with the government. They are not sharing with those authorities, those organizations. They are asking you to share only the number, and from that number they will identify only limited information will be passed. Once I open a bank account, I am going for any benefit from the government. I am sharing my Aadhaar number, so that at present there is no restriction that I can have 4 or 5 bank accounts. But when the government,
but you know what, Gopal Krishna Agarwal, Gopal Krishna Agarwal, I'm going to open this up to the rest of the panel. Please, gentlemen, raise your hands if you want to come in on this. And this is my submission. I have given up my LPG subsidy, Gopal Krishna Agarwal. I pay full price for LPG. I have zero subsidy coming from the government right now. And as a result, I don't want to get onto the Aadhaar database because I don't need anything from the government. Why am I not given that option? If I don't want welfare and I don't want subsidy, why can't I stay off the grid?
This is not the only, this is the gas subsidy.
This is in light of Supreme Court judgment.
Gas subsidy is not the only subsidy. When you open a Jan Dhan account, let me answer this. If you are opening a Jan Dhan account, in that Jan Dhan account, you are automatically getting an insurance. You are getting
but I'm not opening a Jan Dhan account.
5,000 rupees. You are getting so many facilities. No, but ultimately government is doing so much of investment, so much of infrastructure. The government is doing so much through income tax authorities. These are all issues where government benefits are flowing to the citizens of the country. So the government wants to, and you see the example in Ujjwala. Government has been successful.
So Shailesh Gandhi, at the end of the day,
by linking it properly.
Yes. Right. Shailesh Gandhi first. Shailesh Gandhi, as a citizen, if you don't want a subsidy on your gas cylinder, if you don't want a Jan Dhan account, if you don't want any of the benefits that come from, from the government, you should have the option to not have an Aadhaar card at all, or an Aadhaar number, or to not be fingerprinted and biometric scanned by the government. That option currently does not exist.
Funnily enough, I do believe right to privacy is a fundamental right of citizens, but on the Aadhaar card being linked to various things, I think I tend to agree with Mr. Agarwal and Mr. Gaur.
Your belief will
Mr. Sanjay Jha has brought up a very peculiar story. He says Aadhaar was not meant to be linked to various things. All benefits were to be given to people linked to Aadhaar, and therefore, in a way, the Congress was intending to remove Article 14 and freedom of equality from citizens. Aadhaar's concept was that duplication should be avoided. Aadhaar's concept was that corruption should be curbed. And I think that was the concept which today also this government is following. But I concede, between the right to privacy and the Aadhaar linkage, I have no solution. I think Supreme Court should come up with an innovative solution to this. You cannot say right to privacy is not a fundamental right, but linking of these things is very important if you want to curb corruption. I do see great merit in this. There are people with 100 PAN cards and you have no means of verifying whether this is genuine or benami. And this is very true of every kind of transaction in the nation. Beneficiaries of all kinds, and not just benefit, even income tax. Just imagine 100 income tax cards, and how can you verify it? What is your verification process except the Aadhaar?
Right, and let me also point out to you that there have been cases of the fact that people have got fake Aadhaar cards. There was an Aadhaar card that was generated, an Aadhaar number that was generated for a puppy. There was a case that came out in Bangalore where people who weren't even Indian nationals had bought Aadhaar numbers for 100 rupees each. So if we are using the Aadhaar system to remove duplication from the PAN card system, what is the what is the guarantee that the Aadhaar system is not being duplicated? And a few years down the line, we're not going to come up with a completely different system then to clear the duplications from this system. At the end of the day, we're coming back to the same thing, the sanctity of the information and the sanctity of the process. Sanjay Jha, go ahead.
You know, there was a gentleman who spoke, I don't know what his name is because I'm not sitting in front of a television screen. I don't think he comprehended what I said, and I'll repeat it again for his benefit. And I would like him to kindly listen to what is being stated here.
That was Shailesh Gandhi, former CIC.
The Congress-led UPS, sir, did not, well, fair enough, Mr. Gandhi, with due respects to you. End of day, the purpose behind the Aadhaar was not to make it applicable to 128 crore people of India. I think Faye's example is a very valid one. Somebody in this country who's not taking any government subsidy or any kind of welfare benefit did not have to have Aadhaar. The idea was to link Aadhaar to a direct benefits transfer to reduce leakages and corruption and ensuring that everybody who's a targeted beneficiary gets the allocated funds. I don't think there's any ambiguity in what I said. But Faye, the critical point here that we need to also discuss. You see, end of day, there is no convincing explanation from the government. We have raised this issue with the government on multiple platforms. What is the purpose behind having an Aadhaar for buying an air ticket, for buying a railway ticket? Tomorrow when you go to a restaurant, they might impose it. You'll have no choices. I mean, end of day, you are living in a time where you can't take even your democracy for granted.
No,
we live already in an illiberal democracy.
Ticket? I don't know.
Let's accept it. We become susceptible.
Let me just for a second.
I'm telling you of the way you are gradually creating a surveillance system.
If
you can tomorrow create a central warehouse of information and intelligence on every financial transaction of every individual.
No, but okay, so let me just argue this from the other side for a second. One second, Sanjay Jha, let me just argue this from the other side for a second. Sanjay Jha, right, so Sanjay Jha, everybody quoted the fact that in the USA, in the United States of America, there is a right to privacy, but they also have a social security system where every resident, not just a citizen, every resident has to compulsorily get a social security number in order to simply be able to function. Now, how do these two systems coexist? And how does the right to privacy in the US accommodate also the social security system? And if we consider all of the other information we're talking about, and I'm just looking at this from the other side of a point of view, the government has access at this point to our phone records, it has access to our bank records, it has access to our tax filing. So what is the new information that it will get access to through Aadhaar? Let me take this then to Swapnil Kothari. Swapnil Kothari, how does America allow the coexistence of of the social security system and its right to privacy?
Faye, there is a harmonious balance there for the simple reason that they have got adequate data protection laws. When when I have got my information planted onto the Aadhaar and the PAN card system, and here, where everything is being made mandatory. First of all, the Aadhaar Act was only meant for subsidies. Now it's been extended to PAN cards, then bank accounts. And, once those are breached, in fact, we had a debate earlier on the fact that some 33 lakh people's subsidies were leaked in Jaipur at some point in time. So I do not want any of that information to be leaked out. If I have adequate data protection laws, I do not have any problems with the Aadhaar being followed this way. And one of the other things that I want to point out for the benefit of the viewers is that, Faye, that, the argument by the Attorney General K.K. Venugopal is absolutely flawed in that sense, his reliance upon those 54 and 62 judgment, for the simple reason that, if you want to make Aadhaar work. That is the reason why you do not say that there is no right to privacy. There is a right to privacy. In fact, one of the most distinguishing feature of Article 21 is that it is not only applicable to citizens, but it is applicable to persons as well who are not citizens, because the article begins with that no person shall be deprived of his right to personal liberty except by a procedure established by law. That is where we differ, and we are stronger than the United States and the American Bill of Rights and the Fourth Amendment of the US Constitution, that we follow the procedure. We do not follow there. They have a due process. But here we have a procedure, the due procedure established by law. So, and the fundamental rights being sacrosanct cannot be waived by the citizens. So, it is very imperative that there is a fundamental right to privacy. And one of the most basic aspects, Faye, is that a citizen of this, if there is a fundamental right to privacy, I do not have to go to a civil court of law to claim compensation or file a suit. I can go directly approach the Supreme Court under Article 32 of the Constitution, or to the High Courts under Article 226 for violation of my fundamental rights. That saves me lots of tears of the judiciary and a lot of expenses which I may have to incur with the lawyers. So that is one of the most essential things. Unless Aadhaar comes out with an appropriate data protection, or is rather preceded by data protection laws, Aadhaar tends to fall flat on its face.
Gopal Krishna Agarwal, go ahead, please.
I want to mention is that nobody is questioning. Nobody is questioning that you citizens of this country don't have a right to privacy. Everybody has a right to privacy. The question is whether right to privacy is a fundamental right or a general right. That's one question. So. Second is, how do you define the right to privacy? You are sharing, just wait, the government is not sharing your all information to various authorities or organizations. The thing is, how do you define the right to privacy? That is for the court to decide. And as far the government is concerned, the right to privacy is nobody objecting. Everybody has a right to privacy. But you cannot say that every right which a citizen of this country has is a fundamental right. It arises from the Constitution.
So the right to privacy is not an illustrative right, illustrative definition. It will be an inclusive definition. You cannot illustrate examples of privacy. It is an inclusive definition. The Supreme Court is not going to go into the definition of privacy.
Telling that
please understand, it is going to go into the fact whether it's a fundamental right or not.
Hang on. Okay, one second. Gopal Krishna Agarwal, if I may. If I may, my question to you. Yes.
The government
no. So Gopal Krishna Agarwal, my question, you said that the government in no way is saying citizens don't have a fundamental right of privacy. But Mukul Rohatgi, who is our Attorney General representing the government in court, said so very clearly today.
We are
saying
ex-Attorney General.
No.
He was our Attorney General.
He was an ex-Attorney General.
There is a difference. We said everybody has a right to life, a right to privacy, but it is not a fundamental right.
That's his argument, sir. That's his argument. But the fact remains that there are judgments of the Supreme Court thereafter,
fundamental right,
which have considered it to be a fundamental right. So please understand.
All right.
Shouldn't that worry us?
No.
Okay, hang on. Let's bring in some voices. Let's bring in some voices over the phone line. Saraswati is on the phone line.
A citizen has is a fundamental right.
Okay. All right. So Gopal Krishna Agarwal is saying very clearly that the government believes we have a right to privacy, but it's not a fundamental right. All right. Point taken. That you're saying we have a right to privacy, but it's not a fundamental right. Saraswati is on the phone line from Chennai. Saraswati, go ahead.
Yes. Good evening, madam. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go ahead.
Madam, first of all, don't mind. I want to congratulate you for a very good program. I like your channel. I wish you more and more best wishes. I just want to say that initially we all were very much for the Aadhaar, but now all of us, 90% of the citizens are against it. I think the government has to understand. We are not against supporting the government in doing good for the people, but we don't want them to suppress us. We don't want them. Finally, why are the systems not working? They are not working because the people are corrupt. So if you're going to introduce one more system, one more level of corruption is going to come. Tomorrow somebody's Aadhaar card will get cancelled. Then somebody, agent will come and say, give me 10,000 rupees, I'll get you one more card. This is what is going to happen. I don't think this is the way to empower people. Second thing, madam, I don't think you can say that right to privacy is there, but it is not a funded. That argument itself, I'm finding very scary as a citizen. It is there means it is there. You can't say it is there but conditionally. There's no such thing. Tomorrow if I am corrupt, Income Tax Department will come and ask me, why are you corrupt? You don't have to give my information to all the departments for one department to come and question me in case I do something wrong. So for some corruption going on in the system, citizen is getting penalized. So I just want to say I'm just an ordinary citizen of this country who has supported this government initially, but now I'm having a lot of hesitations, madam, because they are introducing schemes that are only inconveniencing us and making us, stripping us naked in front of the system, not making the system more transparent to us. This is very dangerous, madam. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Saraswati, for calling in and for your support for the channel. We appreciate it. Anish is on the phone line from Nagpur. Anish, go ahead.
Yeah, very good evening, madam. And I will also congratulate on this very topic that you have taken. And the thing is, I want to say that this Aadhaar system, when I was when I was taken this thing, I was very taken aback. And means I question myself that why this government is taking my private information, and what to level they are having this means their security system is so good that they will keep some secret. So as of now, I have seen one YouTube in which nowadays you have got a fingerprint scanner mobile phones, as you know, and you can hack that fingerprint scanner also. I have seen that. So my point, my say is that don't link Aadhaar to every other thing. Aadhaar means it's my private this thing information, and should be kept private. It should not be linked to any other system, that PAN card and all those things. I mean, if you want to link, then you generate another system, but don't link my this Aadhaar thing. And that's all I have to say, ma'am.
All right, Neetu's on the phone line from Mumbai. Neetu, go ahead.
Hi, I remember the good old days when BJP used to be in the opposition and it used to speak against Aadhaar. I think in opposition they were very, very vociferous about being against them, Aadhaar policy, but now they've totally for it. What is scary is that unlike the US, which we keep aping in all the things where the government sees its benefit, unlike the benefit that people get in those countries in terms of infrastructure and benefits, we are copying their system and wanting an Aadhaar card here. Are our systems foolproof? No, they can be hacked easily. The collection agency for my biometrics was a private company. It was not a government agency. It was a government-appointed agency. How secure is my data today? My data is not secure. We've already got fake instances of fake Aadhaar. We know terrorists who are caught with Aadhaar cards in their pockets. So if we make this the fundamental document of citizenship of India, are we saying that people who are asylum seekers or people who come illegally into India, the illegal immigrants, terrorists, they're all now considered Indian because they have an Aadhaar? So when it is not foolproof, why do we have this in the first place? I'm getting messages saying my telephone number is supposed to be linked to Aadhaar. Is there anything that is mine? Everything is going to be linked to Aadhaar when that system is not sanctimonious. I don't know whether my data is safe. That means today somebody hacks into my government account, they get everything that they want from me.
Misfounded apprehensions.
Yeah, Gopal Krishna Agarwal, go ahead.
Faith, there are three issues. Yes, there are three issues. One is that Aadhaar does not guarantee that you are a citizen of this country. Aadhaar doesn't give a citizenship right. Second thing is there are so many issues where people are now discussing that for this we need Aadhaar, for that we need Aadhaar. They have, government has not made them mandatory for tickets to be issued based on Aadhaar card. Nobody.
No, but Gopal Krishna Agarwal, does Aadhaar take away my rights as citizens? One second. Let me just stop you for a second. Gopal Krishna Agarwal, you said Aadhaar does not bestow upon you citizenship. But does it take away anything? If I don't have, as a citizen of India, who's been living here my entire life, who has a passport, a PAN card, a voter ID, if I don't have an Aadhaar number, do I become less of a citizen?
Not at all. You have every right with your passport. Your citizenship rights are protected under the Constitution. There are some schemes which the government is trying to put it through the distribute the benefits through Aadhaar schemes, and the government, what the government purpose is, so that we have a unique identity. Aadhaar has been found to be a better way through that unique identity.
Okay, let me just take this to Kailash Vasdev. Kailash Vasdev, 30 seconds to you. I'm giving you the last word, Kailash Vasdev. One second. Gopal Krishna Agarwal, I'm taking this to Kailash Vasdev. What does it mean when we have a right, but it's not a fundamental right? And do you actually believe that not having, and the way things stand right now, not having an Aadhaar number actually disallows my citizenship? I can't file my taxes. I can't get my children admitted into school. There are lots of services that I'm no longer entitled to, like a basic bank account.
I'll give you the answer in a different way.
Who has stopped you to get admission in the school without an Aadhaar card?
1 second, Mr. Vasdev.
They are also asking for the. No, I'm afraid. Let me just summarize it.
Any law?
One second. I want to hear Mr. Vasdev. I only have 30 seconds. Kailash Vasdev, go ahead.
For the past many years, corruption has been a bane in our system. Tackling corruption, no government has succeeded. The present government is doing its best. It brought about demonetization, it brought about procedures, changes, alterations, amendments, with the sole hope that we will be able to restore our financial credibility and get rid of corruption. To get rid of corruption, the situations are different, the provisions are different, the actions are different. We are now being put into the Aadhaar system as a unique identity system, along with all our information available, saying that that is the only way we can eliminate corruption. That's the basic theme. Bring in money, improve the government coffers. I have a question here for them. It is very good of you to think to get rid of corruption, use our services, get everything done. But at the end of the day, look at the inconvenience you are causing to the citizens in infringing their rights. You are walking into his castle when he is protected. The protections of law are now being thrown to the winds because it is an admitted position that our security systems on the electronic systems are not good. The American social security system, I have not heard of a case where someone has been able to break into it. They have tried, the Chinese have tried, there's been a worldwide attempt to break into the social systems there, but the protection systems are very good. We do not have it. You do your systems, please attack everything which you want, streamline the procedure, get rid of 70 years of corruption, but not at the rights of a citizen.
Very well said, Kailash Vasdev. I'm going to wrap up this conversation. At the end, I must remind our viewers that the Aadhaar identification was actually we actually came up as a verification. It was never meant to be an ID card. It was meant to verify that you are who you say you are. It was never meant to be stretched so wide and thin across various programs and be used as an identification for your phone records, for your income tax, for your bank accounts. And to understand and to respond to what Gopal Krishna Agarwal is saying, right now parents are being asked for Aadhaar numbers on their child's report cards and their admission forms and board exam forms that children are filling. So you might not know, but it is being used, Mr. Agarwal, across the board indiscriminately. And we don't know actually as citizens what the sanctity of this information is, who's using this information, how they're using this information. And in a country where our data is being sold and where data is oil, to have someone amass this much data about each of us and then to have the government turn around and say that our right to privacy is not a fundamental right actually makes us very, very nervous. Thankfully, we are right now in the safe hands of a 9-judge bench of the Supreme Court that will decide on our fundamental rights of privacy or not. But in the meantime, I echo what Kailash Vasdev says. Why don't we wait until the UADI database is actually secure, until the government can turn around and say no third party is handling our data, and that you can actually qualifiedly tell us that the data is absolutely safe before you make it compulsory for everyone. If you meant to only use it to hand out welfare, then those of us who are not using welfare shouldn't have to compulsorily get an Aadhaar identification number. Thanks for watching.